So, Sam&Max has had a few years of kind of being relevant, haven't they? The entire Telltale trilogy has been remastered, multiple new merch has been released, from plushies to action figures. There has been art contest, a reanimated project, probably a lot of fan content that I don't even know about. And hey, despite what we might all think about it, they even had a completely new game with This Time is Virtual. Let's just say these last 4 years, it has been nice being a Sam&Max fan. I'm very happy that this franchise that means the world to me has been given an actual chance to shine. Sam&Max is not like the most popular or famous series in the world, but it is definitely a little more popular than it was a few years ago. I remember being 17 and wearing a Max mask in some convention that I went to and nobody recognized who I was, maybe like one person, but that's it. And now this year I went to a convention after so many years of not going to one, and I brought a Max puppet, and there were so many people that actually recognized Max and got excited when they saw my lame cosplay. It's cool, people know who the gay dog and rabbit are. We won! We got to enjoy the glory of semi-relevance. So, now what? Sam&Max is a franchise that I had kind of accepted it would not get new content again. A new VR game and remasters of the full Telltale trilogy was not expected at all. I'm not used to really having new content when it comes to Sam&Max. I think I'm kind of okay if we don't get a new game immediately, because I'm very used to keep Sam&Max alive by the power of insane hyperfixation that comes back for a few months every year. But I know a lot of people aren't like that. I know some people might be used to Sam&Max getting anything from time to time. The Devil's Playhouse Remastered hiatus was already kind of tough to have to sit through. Now we have to wait for what? Are we getting anything at all? We might get new merch from time to time. We might get the occasional Steve Purcell drawing, and there will be plenty of people that will discover the games in the next few years, and fans will keep the characters alive. You know, the usual. But what about, the content? Are we getting a new comic, a new game, a new show, hell, even a movie? Are we getting any of that? Or is this it? 4 years of semi-relevance for a franchise that has been ignored for a while. It's not bad, it's not half bad. I'm very happy that they got this chance. But I can't deny that I'm hungry for more. Remasters are nice, and when it comes to Season 1 and 2, they were extremely needed. But it isn't technically a new Sam&Max story. This Time is Virtual is the closest we've had in almost 15 years to an official new Sam&Max adventure. And, well, we all have our feelings about that game, but it's not enough. Merch is nice, and fans keeping the franchise alive is great. But I think what we really need right now is a completely unofficial, new, long, and satisfying Sam&Max adventure. I'm not saying it needs to happen right now, but I do hope it's where the franchise is going. They have built up a lot of momentum, and it would be disappointing and frankly a bad strategy to just let this moment pass and let it die down with time, instead of using it to make a successful new installment to the franchise. So where could we be heading towards to? I mean, you have seen the thumbnail, but let's talk about every possibility. Comic. A new comic from Steve Purcell has always felt possible to me, but at the same time, it's one scenario that I have fully accepted a long time ago. It might never happen. I think it really only depends on the time and motivation Steve has, and that's very unpredictable to determine. Steve also seems pretty content letting other creators handle the characters over him making the content himself. Maybe one random day Steve will post on his Facebook account that he's actually drawing a comic and we'll all be very happy. But yeah, it's a very unpredictable scenario that I'm not holding my breath over. TV show. I don't think this possibility is as impossible as some people say it is, but I also try to be realistic and accept that the chances of it happening are very slim. This is coming from someone who considers the Sam&Max cartoon to be their favorite adaptation of the franchise, but I do think as of right now, video games is the way for Sam&Max to shine. I have a hard time seeing a modern cartoon of these two because, believe it or not, Sam&Max are not actually characters that are easy to adapt. You can't just make a random cartoon and slap Sam&Max as the two main characters. You really have to know how they work for it to fully feel like you're watching Sam&Max. Steve is not going to hand these characters like nothing, and it's not like Sam&Max is the most marketable franchise ever, even if they're more popular now than a few years ago. They're still not exactly super popular. Besides, if they got a show, it will just get cancelled after 10 episodes anyway. Movie. This one is not happening, but I wish it did. Hit the Road Remaster. I really do not want this one to happen. I constantly see people say that they should remaster this game, and it makes me so mad. The whole appeal to Hit the Road to me is the funny writing, good music, and beautifully animated pixel art. I'm sure the Monkey Island remasters took a lot of time and effort, but I'm so sorry to say that when I look at the pixel art being replaced with 2D art, I feel like I want to cry. I feel the same way about the Day of the Tentacle remaster. Like, it loses so much of the charm, it just looks so much worse. Again, I'm so sorry, I'm sure it takes so much effort to remaster these games, but the originals look way better, and I don't know why you would want to play the same game but worse. Besides that, even if I really appreciate the Telltale remasters, I just don't want more remasters, I want something new. Did I mention it's been 50 years without a long, good, completely new Sam&Max adventure? Yeah. Freelance Police. Yeah, this one is not happening. The whole reason why they can't share anything about this cancelled game is because it's technically owned by Disney, and we all know Disney is one of the worst corporations of this planet. The only chance we have of ever seeing this game is if someone leaks the whole thing. Yeah, the whole thing, because the development of this game was practically fully done. Not completely, obviously, but if someone leaked the game, let's just say we will have a lot of content. Any leakers out there? Hey, can you hear me? You'll be a hero to the Sam&Max community if you did this. Please help us. A completely new game. This and the other option I'm going to talk about are two most likely scenarios to happen, and I'm pretty happy about both of them, honestly. I think if they decide to make something entirely new, I'll be more than happy. Maybe at the end of the day, it will be the smartest choice. Now, I don't know if it will be episodic or a single standalone adventure, who knows? Will it be a season 4 or will it be a completely different new game? Will it go back to the usual Sam&Max formula? Will it continue with the season 3 one? Or will they try something new and different? Casual fans might prefer if they made a simple, silly game with no stakes or character depth, just funny, silly jokes and overly complicated puzzles that make you scream at your screen. More dedicated fans might want a continuation of the Devil's Playhouse. Not a direct continuation, but they will want a version of Sam&Max that can have an interesting plot, mystery, higher stakes, and some emotional depth, despite all the silliness and comedy. Me personally, I would love a silly adventure like everyone else, but I do think in the year 2024, it's kind of difficult to sell games that are just silly, especially point-and-click games. Not that it's impossible, and I personally really love games that are comedy first before anything else, but I do think something that is a bit more story-focused while still relying on comedy foremost might be a better strategy. I also think that the popularity of the Devil's Playhouse is rather obvious. I don't think it's something they haven't noticed. The Devil's Playhouse popularity has increased a lot these last years. It is considered to be the best game in the franchise now, which wasn't the case when the game first came out. I wouldn't want Sam&Max to become a serious series with long, complicated plots, not at all. And I have my problems with the Devil's Playhouse as much as I love it. I'm not saying the next Sam&Max game should be a dramatic continuation of the characters after facing the most traumatic experience of their lives, but I do think it shouldn't be a hit the road story either, silly and simple. It worked for Hit the Road back then, but I don't think it's the kind of game the franchise needs right now. While it should primarily focus on making good jokes and complicated puzzles, can't forget about the overly complicated puzzles. A new game should definitely have a little bit of story. It doesn't have to be a Devil's Playhouse 2.0, but I doubt if we ever have a new game, it will remain as a simple, silly 3-hour-long game. Going back to a Season 4 or a completely new game, I think it's likely it won't be either. I believe we might get a game that takes place in the Telltale Games universe, with a lot of the characters returning, so it could be a considered Season 4, but I don't think that's what it will be called. It might not even be episodic, it might be a standalone, longer adventure, but I think it'll be smart to reuse some of the assets of the remasters. I don't think they need to make completely new models for the characters or the main street or things like that. Season 3 remaster took them long enough. We can allow reusing some assets for a completely new game. It's alright. Plunge Through Space. Here we are in the clickbait part of the video. For those who don't know, Plunge Through Space was the concept for a Sam&Max video game that ended up not happening. It was still very early on development. We have a bunch of concept art, some loose ideas of the story, game mechanics, and a surface level synopsis of the plot. Someone steals the Statue of Liberty, and Sam&Max have to go find it. To get it back, they have to go to space for some reason, visit multiple planets with different aliens, and then somehow they find themselves in a planet with creatures that resemble Max. The project didn't end up happening, but this is different from the freelance police game situation. That game was in development, practically finished, then it was cancelled and Disney is holding it hostage. This is a concept for a game that, if they wanted to, they could pick up and make into a full game today. This game has always intrigued me a lot. The loose ideas of the gameplay sounded fun, the concept art looked great, and even if Sam&Max have gone to the moon like 3 times and have dealt with some extraterrestrial characters, the franchise hasn't really explored much of the world of Sam&Max outside of Earth. I will think they will, since they love putting Sam&Max in crazy scenarios with insane creatures, but they always kept those scenarios on Earth. I wouldn't want Sam&Max to become a series about exploring space or whatever, but I think a standalone space adventure will be super fun, and it will have an incredible amount of potential. The game especially suffered a little from the repetition of roaming around the city, which I personally enjoy, but I think a fourth game of doing the same thing could come across as a little repetitive. A full game where they get to explore something completely new, outside of their city, outside of Earth, is a good idea, and Plunge Through Space is an idea that is already there, and they could perfectly use it if they wanted to. It's not like this concept was scrapped because it wasn't good enough. Steve Purcell just last year stated that Plunge Through Space is a story that he would still like to make. I lost my mind when he said this. I know for him it was probably a very casual thing to say, but to me it was like the end of the world, but like in a good way. Steve doesn't usually talk about stories he would like to make for Sam&Max. He just draws them sometimes and is happy when other creators offer to adapt his characters. So for him to say that he wants to make Plunge Through Space after so many years is huge. And remember when I said about how it would be a good idea for the next game of the franchise to continue with the tone and story-focused formula that the Devil's Play has established? Yeah, this is kind of the perfect story concept to use right now. The Devil's Play has introduced the idea of aliens and how there is a lot going on outside their lives on Earth. You know, we assume things like that exist on the Sam&Max universe, and it's not the first time we see aliens or the concept of galaxies in the franchise. But it is a probably completely unintentional but genius way to introduce a concept that can be expanded on a game that is all about space. Not to mention the planet of Ligamores. Season 3 focuses more on Max and how he has inexplicable psychic powers. The origins of the powers are never explained, which I think is part of the joke. You don't have to explain why Max has psychic powers all of a sudden, he just has them. But it would be a good opportunity to use this strange planet as some sort of explanation as to why the plot of the 3rd season happened at all. Or, you know, it can remain unexplained, but it would be cool to visit the Lagamore planet anyway. For the insane Sam&Max fans, it could be a good opportunity for some emotional depth on the characters. I'm not saying the game will be a 100k long hardcore fanfic or whatever, but this is a Sam and a Max that have lost each other on the previous game due to otherworldly powers, and I think finding out your friend/husband is originated from a lost alien planet on space that, judging by the concept art, might have some problems going on, that might make you a little afraid of feeling alienated from him again, or even make you afraid that you're going to lose him again. Not to mention, remember the reason why Sam&Max go in this adventure at all? That's right, to to retrieve the Statue of Liberty. Oh, what's that? The Statue of Liberty has a lot of significance in the story of the Devil's Playhouse, and Sam might connect losing the Statue of Liberty as some sort of metaphor of him losing his Max years ago, and you could showcase this emotional death in a subtle way that works for the characters and doesn't take away the comedic tone of the game. Wow, what a concept! Plunge Through Space will be the perfect continuation for the Devil's Playhouse. Honestly, the more I think about this game, the more it seems like Season 3 was practically made for this game, like an introduction to a bigger story later on. I know I'm putting a lot of high expectation on a game we know very little about, and it's very likely that the story will end up being very silly and without any high stakes or emotional depth. But hey, it's hiatus time. We need to be a little insane with our prediction if we want to keep the serotonin levels a little high. Maybe we'll get Plunge Through Space, maybe we'll get a completely new game, maybe we'll get a Hit the Road remaster, or maybe we won't get anything in a long time. I know the Devil's Playhouse remaster took a long time to make. The team is probably tired, and it's not like they are a big team that can just make a new game right now if they wanted to. It's not like there are many other teams or studios that seem to be willing to make a new Sam&Max game, although I would really hope that there are. It might be a little quiet for a while, but as a longtime fan, I can say, there's hope. Have fun with the series even when we don't have new content. But I think it's fun to imagine what the future of Sam&Max could be like. I like to imagine how a Sam&Max movie will be like, even if I know it will probably never happen. I have a fun concept for a quote-unquote fun game that I would like to continue working on once I'm done working on my own video game that I'm putting a lot of hard works and tears into. I am self-promoting right now, yes. Hiatuses, however that word is pronounced, can be good for the fans to explore their artistic creativity. I get to draw a lot and make projects like this when I am waiting for the next installment of the franchise. I make videos like this because I like talking about the franchise. It's important to me, and I like seeing other people care about it as much as I do. It's okay if maybe the wait will be a little longer, be it 3 years, 5 years, hopefully not 10 years like last time. It's okay to wait even if it's boring and sometimes a little sad. You can keep revisiting the franchise, you can keep creating content, and one of these days, before you know it, maybe you'll find out a new game is coming. Will it be Plunge Through Space? I hope so, since I made a whole video about it, but it doesn't have to be. I will just be happy to see Sam&Max again, even if it can take a little while. It's alright, I can wait for them, I've had before. I can do that again. And I would probably make like 10 more bad video essays about them anyway.